Recorded live from the mats of Radical MMA in New York City. The Martial Culture Podcast. Your source for in-depth combat sports and martial arts insights with Coach Rene and Matt Peters. Ring the bell and let's get it on.
There's somebody in here with us.
Oh, no.
I'm scared.
I'm scared, too. He's a Muay Thai master.
I'm very scared. He was on Oprah. He knows Oprah personally.
No, but we have huge news. Oh, my God. Amazing news. Matt, you actually won a bet.
Yes. Who did I pay off to make Anthony Pettis win that fight? Thank you, Anthony.
So you're
Pettis.
like 10-1, 1 in 10 now.
My wife
right?
is more excited than I am.
Really?
Because she just knows I won't get hurt today.
Yeah. No. Okay. We didn't bet for anything, though.
No, I told you that. We didn't pick the terms. But,
yeah. But you got. Were you happy? Did you enjoy the fights on the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch all of them.
Yeah, I watched a few of them. There was some very nice fights, you know. But I guess we really want to talk about the Pettis and Thompson fight. But before we do that, let's introduce our wonderful guest, Mr. Christopher Robinson.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah,
And Chris and I have been friends for almost 15 years.
Yes.
Chris is a martial artist for so many years and amazing Muay Thai fighter, also excellent grappler who I'm very honored to say trusts me to teach him some things here and there, just a couple things here and there, what little I can teach him because he has some great instruction under Rodrigo Medeiros and many other instructors. But I also he helped me, let me stay at his place in San Diego many years ago, and it was a really wonderful trip. And just great to have a very close friend and a fellow traveler in the martial arts to give us perspective on the striking arts. And it's cool because, you know, Anthony Pettis really came out as a Muay Thai fighter, and Thompson is a karate guy. And so, you know, my background originally very way back when was karate, and you can see a little bits of Thompson's karate, and you can see the Muay Thai. So we have a little perspective here on discussing the fight. But also, I'd like to get into your background. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started and where you trained? And
I started martial arts when I was a kid. I was around 14. Started with Taekwondo for a couple of years and went to some full contact Kung Fu. But then when I went to college...
like Sanda kind of thing?
Yeah, it was called... God, man, it's been so long. God, what was it called? Kushu.
Oh, yeah, I'm not familiar.
Kushu, or something like that. But went to San Diego for college, and that's where I found Muay Thai. So started out this gym called Black Tiger in San Diego with Vince Soberano. And then from there, I met Sexon. He actually came to my first fight and jumped into my corner, started telling me what to do, and told me that I looked like I was Thai, but I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
For those of you who don't know, Sexon Janjira is a very, very, very famous Thai fighter who's really well known in the Thai fighting world as a phenomenal coach and competitor.
Yeah, so at the time he was up at the Muay Thai Academy in North Hollywood, so I would drive up there and stay with him and his brother for like 4 days at a time, and you know we trained and fought and just went out.
And what year was that that you met him?
Gosh, this was 1996.
96.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, 96. March of this month. Yeah.
Wow.
March 96. So,
that's great.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
So trained with him for a while. Then he moved to Dallas. Then once he left, I kind of stopped doing Muay Thai.
But you fought quite a bit. Do you mind getting into your fight experiences a little bit and your record? And I know we were in Thailand for a while as well.
Yeah, we went to Thailand just for 2 weeks. The first time he does this every year where he takes a group of fighters and stays in Thailand for 2 weeks at a time, usually in December. And the first time he did that, and this is, God, I can't even remember what year it was, but way back when. And so I went there on the first trip. And we just went around to different academies and just trained Muay Thai at different places that he knew of that, you know, when he was growing up in Thailand and training and fighting. But back in LA, I don't know, I probably had about maybe around 20 fights or so, just around LA, Vegas, Northern California.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So it's just been a great experience. And then years after that, actually, my mom, she had cancer back in Houston. And I went there, and while I was taking care of her, I stayed there for a year. I ended up starting jiu-jitsu. I was at a place, Saul Solis.
I know Saul. Yeah. He's
awesome.
the old school guy. Yeah.
He's a Muay Thai guy originally.
Yeah, he is. You're right.
So, I was there, and, I had a lot of free time. So I would just go and train, and he said, hey, can you help me, teach classes and things? So I would teach Muay Thai classes for him there. And one day, he also taught jiu-jitsu. And one day he's like, hey, you see that kid up there? He's been doing jiu-jitsu for about 3 months. Go in the ring. Don't punch or kick him or anything. Just move around. Just kind of see what happens. And I'm like, all right. So, I go kind of move around with this kid. Next thing you know, he takes me to the ground. He's on my back, chokes me out. I'm like, whoa. So, whoa, let's do this again. And we do it again. Again, I'm not going to punch or kick the guy, but, we're just kind of moving around. And, some kind of way he kind of gets me down and does the same thing. And so I was like, man, look, man, you need to do jiu-jitsu. So I was like, okay. That kind of got that bug in me. So just went back to California after my mom passed away and started training with Carlos Valente just for a couple of years. And then he moved back to Brazil. And I had met Rodrigo Medeiros a couple of times. He would come and guest teach and ask if I could train with him and, train with Rodrigo Medeiros and a bunch of other guys that have helped me out along the way.
And for the guys who don't know, again, Rodrigo Medeiros is, and we're talking not Rodrigo Medeiros, not Comprido, the other one, who's from represents Carlson Gracie lineage and is really, really phenomenal jiu-jitsu teacher and instructor and amazing. I was lucky enough to spend a few days at his academy too, and I never met the person personally, but I have pieces of his game that I've adopted and just total respect for that master.
Yes, it's been awesome, but jiu-jitsu is a little difficult for me. I'm still a Muay Thai guy doing jiu-jitsu. So
luckily, by the way, he's a brown belt with the number of stripes on it. So
when I come to New York, I'm fortunate enough to come and train with you, Rene. You definitely helped out my game quite a bit.
Thank you.
You're an awesome teacher. So.
Oh, thank you. Also, Chris, tell me about how you got into. People may not know, obviously don't know because it's of course the first time. People don't know him, but he's actually quite famous also in another world. So you went from martial arts, and then when you retired from fighting in Muay Thai, you also started doing Pilates.
Right. So, this is '99 in San Diego. A guy named Michael Johnson is taking my Muay Thai class at the health club, and he wanted to do private lessons. And he said, hey, you're a little expensive. How about we do a trade-out? He was a Pilates instructor. So I'm like, okay, I want to see what this Pilates stuff is all about. So, we do a lesson. He puts me on this piece of apparatus called a reformer. Gives me the full advanced reformer. It takes about an hour. It almost killed me.
But I know that feeling. I know that feeling. Chris is like, hey, let's do this workout. I'm like, what is this torture?
But as soon as I got up, I could instantly punch and kick better. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And we had about 5 lessons or so. Then he had to move back to New York City. And he's like, hey, if you want to really learn, come to New York, train with my teachers, this lady named Romana Krzyzewska. And I'm like, I thought about it, and I was like, man, this is really helping.
I'm sorry, her Romana Krzyzewska?
Krzyzewska. I'm probably saying it wrong. Krzyzewska.
And she's the direct student of Joseph Pilates,
yeah,
right?
She learned directly from Joe Pilates.
And she's like known as the traditional Pilates style, right?
Yes,
is that correct?
Yeah. So there's a couple of different, just like in martial arts, there's different kind of styles of Pilates. The style that I do, some people call it classical or authentic Pilates. There's another style called contemporary style that's different than what she did.
And the interesting thing is Joseph Pilates actually was a martial artist. He was a boxer, right?
Yeah, he was a boxer. He actually had a glass eye, a fake eye.
Oh, I didn't know that. No
he
kidding.
Lost it sparring.
Oh, shoot.
Boxing. So, yeah, and I think he taught some self-defense classes as well. He had some inventions that were like fight weapons. So I was told.
Really?
He had this one thing. It was like a weight in his hand, and then it had these kind of wires with kind of fish weights at the end. And so there was a story that I heard that he went back to Germany kind of during – he was German, and he was in the U.S. for a little bit and went back there. And while he was there, I guess the secret police started asking for his papers. He was at a bar.
Yeah.
And he knew what that meant. And so he had this thing. He hit one guy, because he has that weight in his hand, it makes the fist harder. Hit one of the undercover police guys, knocked him out, swung at the other one with it. He stepped in, so he missed with the punch. But because he had the wire with the weights at the end, it wrapped him around, and then the weights hit him and knocked the guy out.
Wow. It's sort of like a traditional Morningstar weapon, but in your hand.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Wow.
A scary time.
Give one of those.
I mean, thank God he wasn't arrested by the Gestapo.
He was able. I think
my father actually had a similar interest in it. My father was Jewish and tried to go back into Germany and smuggle out his dad, who was arrested by the SS, and unfortunately he wasn't able to. But running from the Gestapo is no joke. Anyway, that's another story. But he was a fighter, and his. Sorry, I didn't mean. Please go on with Ramana and all that.
So that once Michael told me about Ramana, I was like, I'm gonna take this up because it's making me a better fighter. That's my whole purpose. I just wanted to, I like the way that I felt. It felt right. It got me stronger. So I came out to New York, did the program, and here we are, 20 years later. So
wow.
So
and you're very famous in the Pilates world now.
I mean, people, I guess.
Yeah. You're so humble. Okay, I'm going to say it. Chris has been on Oprah many times. So, and
you were on there once.
Once. I thought it was just once.
No.
But you trained her. You trained her
I
as well.
Train her.
Yeah.
So,
so yes, you're a little famous.
Something like that.
Chris is actually blushing right now. Chris is an amazing guy. The only thing I say is this is a hallmark of great martial artists is sometimes they're a little too humble, but you're a fantastic martial art. And actually the Pilates that I've done with you has always helped me. It's interesting because, it's a different kind of Pilates that, that I had seen before, which I didn't really do that much, but it's something very applicable to fighting. I really like your approach on core strength and connection to the spine and how to generate power. And I always see commonalities between what you tell me and what I'm trying to do in my martial arts journey. And it definitely you helped me a lot the times I've done it and tortured me like crazy.
Can I ask you a question about Pilates?
Yeah.
What's the point of it? Like I have never done any sort of Pilates or even yoga or anything like that. But all I see is middle-aged 40-year-old women that look amazing.
Yeah.
Is it like stretching?
Well, every movement has a stretch, strength, and control.
Okay.
So basically, one set of muscle groups are contracted, they're strengthening, while the opposite side stretches. And then you have to control that strength, with the work. So the way that I look at it, I use the core, do the ab muscles, the transverse, everything, to help you elongate your spine. Now, with those muscles working, the opposite muscle group will be the back. So now the spine's elongated, so you should have more range of motion in everything you do. There should be no compression on your spine. So now when you're doing any kind of performance, you should be able to perform better and not get as fatigued and be able to last a lot longer.
Wow.
And also not get hurt.
So everybody should do Pilates.
It's interesting. There's a study that had nothing to do with Pilates, but it said one of the biggest correlations to a healthy older life is spinal health. There's a complete medical study. I forgot where I saw it, but it had nothing to do with Pilates itself. But it said, if you have a strong core and good spinal health, you're much more likely to have a better life in older age. Past 50. It's just one of those health markers of really solid health. And you can see the guys who don't have healthy spines in jiu-jitsu, they drop off because they can't spar anymore. Judo, jiu-jitsu, any martial art, when they start. When you start having the herniated discs and this and that, and not taking care of your back and your spine, you have problems. Thank God, I'm generally okay with some injuries, but thanks to Chris, I'm trying to overcome those as well.
Joe Pilates had a quote, and I'm not saying it perfectly, but it was to the effect of, if you're 30 with a rigid spine, you're old. If you're 60 with a supple spine, you're young.
Wow, that's a great quote. Yeah. Wow, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And is Pilates dependent on that machine, or can you do it with?
No. So there's a full mat workout, and actually that's the hardest part of the actual method of Pilates. So all the other apparatus helps you do the mat better. So you have a full range of exercises where you can make it, someone's never worked out, so you can kind of make it, pretty easy to the person that's a professional athlete to challenge them. I like to use it to teach people how to move as well as condition them.
Also, you're working with some high-level football players to help get them better at football too, right?
Yeah. I work with different athletes. So there's a kicking school in San Diego, Michael Husted. He's a kicking coach, and so I work with a lot of his guys. I work with some people aspiring to be Olympic swimmers. But then I work with martial artists. So, I just recently moved to Dallas, so I'm working with some of Sexton's guys. in Dallas, some of his fighters. In San Diego, I was working with Clark Gracie, helping him out, and just some other guys. So just, I mean, it's good for everyone, any kind of athlete, or even if you're not an athlete, just, everyday person, just doing everyday movements. The great thing about it, not only does it condition you, but it teaches you how to move.
Yeah. If you were in martial arts, how and you found a reputable Pilates school, what would you say would be like how many times a week to supplement your martial art training?
I tell all the athletes, some say my football players, they have to lift weights because that's just the protocol for their teams. But the amount of times that they lift weights, they should be doing Pilates. If they could switch it and have their main conditioning program Pilates, I feel they'll be much better athletes.
It's funny because when I was getting ready for fights, I worked with Jilson, who's been on the podcast too, and we never ever touched a weight. Yeah. The only thing we ever touched was a sandbag once in a while, but it was mostly body weight or picking him up and doing a lot of. I wouldn't say it was Pilates, but a lot of things that were kind of seemed like similar objectives. Obviously Pilates is a much more complex form of training, but he always had me moving in ways, and I never felt stronger. Yeah. When and we didn't touch a weight. So I think there's a place for weight training for sure, especially if you're rehabbing and you're under supervision of a personal therapist, a physical therapist, or something like that. And of course, if you have some ideas that you want to hypertrophy for to make a different weight class, which is an interesting thing, talking about Pettis, how he jumped up a weight class. But I always found as a teacher, the guys who do the most weights are the ones with the most injuries. Right. And especially now, everybody's doing like CrossFit style weightlifting, and they're just destroying their shoulders, their body, and neck. I'm like, man, you could get 10 times stronger doing Pilates or whatever, and put down the weights and not get hurt. Yeah.
One thing with the Pilates is just like martial arts, it requires patience, discipline, and dedication. And not everybody wants to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. That is so true. Yeah. They're like, I want my instant gains with the Z.
Exactly.
But thank you for telling us about yourself. It's an amazing journey.
Is California your home base?
No, actually, I have a studio in San Diego called Essex Pilates. But I just recently moved to Texas. My dad's getting older, so I'm just trying to spend more time with him. But I travel quite a bit. So I'm, mostly in Dallas, but then I'm in San Diego probably every month and a half or so.
And you're available for seminars around the world. I know you were in Korea and in a lot of Brazil recently. Yeah. And you were Italy too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Seminars around the world. Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah. I was like, his Instagram or not, Facebook actually is like, it makes me very jealous. I'm like, wow, look at all these cool places he's going. But it sucks to travel so much too, I guess.
I just fantasize being home for 2 months in a row. I haven't done that in many, many years.
But
what brings you to New York? Sorry.
I'm just working with clients out here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it had nothing to do with me.
You just want to see Rene, right?
That's the best part.
No seminars planned here?
Not this month.
Okay. Yeah, but I was actually really lucky that anytime he comes, he always instructs at my academy, and I'm just honored to have that knowledge. And but I know whenever he's like, whenever Chris says, okay, we're going to do a Pilates workout now, you could see the people who know, they're like, oh. Like, crap, this is going to hurt. But hey, so we know we just watched a little highlights of the fight. And you have a great Muay Thai background, and Pettis, who's trained with Rick Rufus, who's a Muay Thai guy now, but actually has an interesting backstory because he wasn't originally a Muay Thai guy, as an American kickboxer, but he has a Muay Thai background, and Thompson, who has a karate background, and I originally in 1975 started in karate, so it's really interesting to see this Pettis fight, because it's really like, even though Pettis did have Taekwondo background, he only threw kind of one semi-Taekwondo kick, but he came out as a real, very Thai with his hands up, and Thompson came out with his hands down, very Shotokan karate. And there are many different styles of karate. People get them a little confused, but the in-out, hands low, darting movements are very indicative of the Shotokan lineage, which is something I'm somewhat familiar with. It's not only the only lineage that does that, but it's very different from Kyokushin, which does not have that kind of in-out movement, something like where George St. Pierre came from, where Kyokushin is not about movement. So you saw a fighter with a lot of in and out movement, based, hands low, which is problematic. And then you saw another fighter who was like a less movement oriented and coming in old style Thai, and it was a real interesting clash of styles. Mm-hmm. And what was your take on that fight? And first of all,
yeah, no, I can see Thompson, with the in and out style is very tricky. You know, he had a little bit of height on him, so he definitely had to reach. But I saw Pettis, counter that quite well. So it was a good fight. It was a close fight, and then towards the end, he was able to figure him out.
Yeah,
and broke down the advantages that he had, which was smart.
Yeah.
So Pettis' camp definitely trained well for this fight.
I know you mentioned the pisao kick or the stomping knee kick and how important that was to shut down southpaws.
Yeah, it was smart for Pettis to be opposite stance. So now, he didn't have to worry about that jump spinning back kick.
Yeah.
Thompson has to change his stance first, then throw the back kick. That takes time.
Yeah.
So he should be able to see that. And then to protect against that quick front side kick, that's where that stomp kick comes in.
Yeah.
And, he could kind of, when you throw that kick, if he throws that side kick, it gets jammed.
And let me tell you, that side kick, I think it was the person to really, the team that really uses it so much was the Greg Jackson camp. Obviously, other people use it, but they brought it in, and then you see that everybody's using it out to the point where, like, people are like, we should stop using this because it's, like, ruining our fighting style. But, that's it. It's like John Jones just slides in and hits that kick, and it's interesting because it is a part of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. People don't know it, but the pisao kick is part of, not exclusively, it's also a part of karate. So it's interesting that it's what would be considered a slightly more traditional move was used by the Muay Thai fighter.
Right.
Where, but it was very good to stop that front side kick. So it's like a little bit of traditional versus traditional kind of thing, interesting,
I mean, it was just,
and lots of low kicks too.
It was just the thing that was needed. And with the low kicks, I mean, that's just going to slow him down.
Do you use that kick a lot, the pisao to the knee?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Actually, Sexton started incorporating that quite a bit. And I play with it a little bit.
Right. Do you think you started incorporating when he went in Sexton Jiu-Jitsu, went more to Muay Thai? Went more to MMA?
Yeah, I would say so. Because there's a need for it.
Yeah. Is it frowned on in Muay Thai, that kick? No, it's not. But you don't see it that much, right?
But, the thing is, people aren't going to, if it's straight Muay Thai in Thailand, they're not going to throw side kicks with the front leg.
Right.
So then, now there's no need for it. And
it does stop the shot too, which is another.
Yeah. So it definitely has a place for in MMA than Muay Thai.
Right.
So
but you could see that it was like the one thing about Rufus's camp, they've fought Thompson a number of times now. So it was Tyron Woodley, although he represents the American top team, he gets coaching from Duke Rufus, and so they faced Thompson. So that was 2 fights there. One was a draw, and the other was a decision win for Woodley. And now they had Pettis fighting him, and Pettis coming up from lightweight. You'd think he would try to maximize his speed or something like that, being lighter, but he didn't. He just kind of, he was really interesting, right?
No, Thompson's too fast.
He has
too much of a reach. You kind of have to counter a guy like that or block him.
Right.
But if you try to match his speed, especially with the distance that he has, he'll pick you apart.
Yeah. Interesting.
I've seen that. I've seen that several times.
Well, can you go into specifics?
Well, I've seen it in several fights. Guys can't figure out that front kick, that front side kick. And then to escape it, they'll go to the backside and they'll run right into the back kick.
Yeah.
So he has those 2 options. He just plays with that. And he just sets it up. So people just eat the side. They're like, okay, enough of this. I'm gonna go the other way, and then run into
the spinning
back kick, and then they're done.
Yeah.
So,
and you said there was another. You said there was a. We talked. This was before the podcast, but you were saying that there was another old school where Koban fought a karate guy, and he had a little trouble or something like that.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. Yeah, he.
When was that? Was that in the 90s?
That was in the 90s. It was I think Manfred Gibson.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I think that's his name, Manfred Gibson. And he kind of had a weird, strange, hard to figure out karate style, but very effective. He was quick, his timing was good, and kind of similar to Wonder Boy. And he caught Koban with a jump spinning back kick, I think to the ribs.
Wow.
And he set it up with the side kick. He just quick side kick. Side kick didn't hurt too much, but it was definitely getting in, just like a jab, just over and over and over. It's quick, it's easy to get in there. So then when you try to go to the other side to escape it, you run right into the jump spinning back kick.
I remember way back when Charles Chainsaw McCarthy was fighting Loazo. Do you remember that fight? Loazo's he was from the Canadian, and he did the exact same thing, and he kicked him so hard with the spinning back kick, he sent him like across the cage, and he fell against the cage, and he just clutched his ribs, and the fight was over. I think that was the very first jump spinning back kick KO in MMA. And since then, it was like, oh, that old stuff works.
Yeah.
And while you're a Muay Thai fighter, you have a beautiful spinning back kick.
Well,
and spinning wheel kick too.
There's not enough room in here. Don't do it.
Yeah.
It's too much expensive equipment.
When I first started martial arts, I did Taekwondo, and that was my kick for that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's the kick that I like.
Did you compete a lot in Taekwondo? Or?
A little bit, but not that much. But I was at a place, I was the only American there. And so the competition in class was pretty high.
You mean it was like all full Koreans?
All Koreans, yeah. Like everyone spoke Korean, and it was pretty intense.
Can you still count to 10 in Korean?
Hana.
You can. Wow, that's great. I competed in Taekwondo in my college days, and I've forgotten how to count to 1 to 10.
That's about all I could do.
I know the names of techniques. I remember most of them, the names of techniques. But I like the Korean, and they like it. It's Korean and Japanese sound completely different. But so it's not like, even though I speak Japanese, they're completely different sounding. Although grammatically they're interestingly similar. But I was able to remember the.
I know the words to Gangnam Style.
You do? What are they?
Oh, don't put me on the spot. Nobody wants to hear me say.
No, but it's what I love is is to see we had Professor Ken on the other day, and we were talking. He's like, I don't consider myself a Muay Thai fighter teacher. I consider myself a striking teacher. And that's what I love about MMA is like you draw from what works. Right. And so, if there's some Taekwondo move that works, and generally speaking, as a foundation, you really want to have, as your striking style, you want to have Muay Thai as your foundation for a lot of reasons. But on top of that, or boxing, on top of that, you can add in other things, or karate too. Sometimes it works, but most MMA fighters are using Muay Thai as their base or boxing as their base. And even when you say boxing, you can't turn to the side so much. It's like more like the modified boxing. But when you can add on other elements, it doesn't mean that one of the most popular kicks in MMA right now is the oblique kick, which that's a Wing Chun kick. One of the most popular punches, and you could see Stephen Thompson do this. While it's known as a flick jab in boxing, it's actually the way Thompson throws it's almost like more like a back fist, because in boxing you can't hit with the back of your hand, but in MMA you can. He doesn't really do a flick jab, he does a flick back fist, which is like super Shotokan, like flick, and then boom, dart in for the cross. And you could see him doing it over and over. It's very, very orthodox Shotokan style, and he made it work. That being said, I don't believe you should ever fight with your hands down.
Yeah, that's that's fight 101.
Yeah. And if you're fighting with your hands down, no matter how good you are, at some point you're going to get rocked.
Right.
Because you get older, you're not as fast. It's a speed and timing and hand-eye coordination, visualization kind of thing. Eventually you get older, you get a little slower. Yeah. This is completely different style, but I watched this video of this 70-year-old boxer. And it's this young guy in the ring who kind of challenges him. It's in some gym there. And you see the boxer just puts his hands up, and the young guy's coming up fast. He thinks and the boxer's just moving, just moving around. And he goes, bop, and just drops him. And he's like, I still got it. Because he's just strong, hands up, fundamentals defense, Right. And I really respect Thompson. I respect his style. But, he's, 34 now?
Well, not only that, he took a lot of shots in the leg during the fight.
That's
going to slow you down, because a lot of the defense with your hands are down is your footwork.
But he's notorious for taking lots of shots to the legs, and that's going to eat up. Also, even if he wins the fight, it's collected damage. Your ACL can't take like 400 kicks over your lifetime.
Right. So,
but you're right. He slowed him down.
And that's what the game. The game plan for the fight is kick his legs, slow him down. Okay, he has his hands down. He uses his legs, his footwork for defense with the hands down. Okay, he could do that in the first round at the beginning of the fight, but after you take those shots to the legs, you're slower. Yeah. And now if your hands are down, you're probably going to eat something. And that's what happened.
Yeah, and a lot of people, for the people who didn't see the fight, there's a highlight we posted, but it's just basically did a Superman punch, but it was like kind of like a Superman overhand. And people were like, oh, it was so ninja. He jumped off the cage and he was so amazing. I'm like, dude, he did not jump off the cage. Yeah. Now, I watched the fight like 400 times, and what he did is he kind of, parried the side kick. and he used the cage for a little bounce, but he wasn't kicked against the cage. He just bounced, and he does that all the time. He just kind of bounces. A lot of fighters do that. They kind of use a little bounce, but it was maybe I think he just understood his range distance, and Thompson was just not fast because he dates so many leg kicks.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah, he was talking after the fight about how to make up the reach that Thompson had. How
he
to
was
get
saying
past
that.
it. How do I get past it?
Yeah.
And he thought that was the only way to get past.
Oh, okay, that's smart.
Yeah, smart. Yeah. Did he say in the interview that he planned to do the Superman, or
It wasn't planned. It was
just
he was
kind of
just
the
something he
moment?
was thinking about, that he had to find a creative way to get through
Yeah.
Thompson's defense.
And I am not a Superman punch guy, but I was working with one of our fighters recently who's really freaking tall. And he tends to a little bit punch downwards, you know. I won't say, right? Yeah. He tends to punch downwards a little because he's so tall, right? And I'm like, dude, you're punching downwards. So I did kind of like a Superman overhand, because, you know, when a tall fighter fights downwards, you just do a Superman overhand. And I kind of hit him a little bit. I'm not saying I'm as good as he is. I'm not saying that, but I'm like, when you're dealing with a tall fighter, those kind of Superman movements really cover the distance fast. You know?
Yeah, with a tall fighter, what you could do next time you spar him, if you guys have the same stance, you have your head go towards his chest and then loop your overhand. It's really hard to defend. Yeah. But it has to be the same stance.
Yeah.
So that's it's a guy, Danny Steele, back in the day used to do that all the time.
Yeah, you worked out with him a lot, right? Yeah.
And that was the thing. I saw him knock a few guys out with that. But sparring with him, it was really difficult. I had to change my stance to negate that.
Yeah. So. Yeah, you know, and yeah, you drive in with your head and then you hit the overhand, right?
Yeah, you drive with your head, so now your head's, you know, kind of, his arms are too long to hit you.
Yeah.
And then you loop your hand over kind of high.
Yeah.
So your head is down, your hand goes over your head, and then that goes, you know, right to his face.
A lot of Russian fighters like that too, I noticed. Yeah.
But only if the guy's taller than you.
Uh-huh.
Same height doesn't work quite as well.
Right.
There's not too many guys taller than you.
To me, there's like, I'm like up to your nipple.
Don't look at my nipples.
I am the shortest guy in this room, by the way, listeners. Right? I'm tall in emotional stature, but not in actual
tall in
stature.
spirit.
In spirit, yeah, I try to be. So one thing, okay, so that was the fight. It was a beautiful tactical exchange, and I really enjoyed watching it. Just how to deal with reach is a very important problem for any fight, especially like for me. What makes it interesting is I see MMA as how do I deal with this in a self-defense context, and when people have blades, obviously they have more reach.
Right.
So it's like how do you get in on someone who's threatening you with a knife, and you know, I actually have a friend. He got into a self-defense altercation, and he didn't do Superman, but he did a very similar thing where he kind of rushed in really fast and hit the guy with the overhand who was trying to stab him. So, you know, yeah, but he doesn't want his name mentioned in the academy because, you know, he doesn't want his kids to know that he got into altercations. But but that's how he stopped the guy from stabbing him, and he rushed in the distance almost like a Superman.
We were watching
interesting kind of thing.
A TV show the other day, and your name came up because there was a guy being attacked. And I was like, wonder how Rene would defend against this. And a guy running at another guy with an axe.
With an axe?
Yeah.
So you decided to axe me.
Yeah, I'm axing him. But I said, so the guy being attacked ran away. I mean, that's a good tactic all the time. But I said, well, wouldn't you want to get closer to take the axe out of the equation?
My first instance is make distance. My second thing is pick up a improvised weapon. Okay. You know, like some sort of blocking tool, and if you can. And the third is absolutely clinch up if you can. The great thing about when you're fighting, we actually did this the other day with baseball bat, and like it wasn't an axe, but we're kind of that kind of movement, is that there's a chopping motion that's necessary. So you know, they have to come up, and if you shoot in really tight and get close to the arm, they can't come down. So unfortunately, I have been in a self-defense encounter where someone tried to stab me, and I clinched up very, very fast and tried to take control of the knife and was successful. I'm not trying to say, you know, I'm the man or anything.
John
like
Wick
that.
over here.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. No, not at all. Not at all. I was very lucky, and if I could have avoided that scenario, I would have. I didn't have a choice. There was an ambush attack.
So step one is avoid.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And the first step is awareness. You know, like I failed as a martial artist, self-defense instructor there because I was not aware of my surroundings. I was late for work. And as a translator, I was a translator at the time. When you're the translator and you're late, it's really bad. Two people sitting across each other, not able to communicate. You know, and I was late, and I was like nervous, and I'm like, what do I do? And the guy, boom, it's New York. When you have that like touristy weird, not worrying about, like energy, they go right for you. And the guy started to target me because I had a very expensive watch that was gifted to me by my father, right? Or by my family, I should say. But I was able to defend myself, and I'm very, very happy that I got the training. I was able to survive that encounter.
We're very happy too.
Well, thank you. But I did clinch up, and that first option is distance. Second is to get an improvised weapon, and the third is if you can't, you clinch up that knife. Okay. And it's one reason I train. And actually, this guy stabbed me so many times. No, because with the shock knife. Oh. Yeah, so we train with the electrified taser knife, which you know so well, and we spar with it, and Chris and I were sparring with it, and I was trying to control his wrist in a certain way, and Chris did something very interesting. We just tilted it instead of trying to stab me, he tilted his wrist, and the taser went into my thumb, and that would have been real because if the knife was sharp, it would cut my thumb. I would have never understood that if I hadn't been a taser knife, and you got me like that 4 times. I was like, my thumb was in so much pain. I was like, man, when we do jiu-jitsu, I'm gonna get you so bad. I had literally my thumb was on fire for about a day because it was you got me so many times with that just moving the knife right in the webbing between your right. It was so painful.
I was like, come on, Rene, figure it out.
I did. No, but you left, and then I worked on that for about 3 months, and then maybe we'll do that. Okay, this is how you do it, right? But it was actually a great learning experience. But just stepping the fight aside, we've had some really interesting discussions on, and I know you are a real historian. You watch so much tape of old Muay Thai. You're a real historian of the art of Muay Thai. One thing you said to me was really interesting. This Muay Thai has gone through this process of evolution and continues to evolve. And something you said to me which just boggled my mind, which is amazing, is you said Muay Thai was very different before one person and after one person. And that person actually was not a Thai fighter, but I think you know who I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah. Muhammad Ali. So I think martial arts in general, before Muhammad Ali, everything was very anchored down,
stiff,
feet planted, you kind of stay still and react. But, once even boxing was like that. Yeah. So after Muhammad Ali, kind of with that light floating style, Taekwondo changed. I say Muay Thai changed, boxing's changed, even some Kung Fu's have changed because of, his influence. I think he's a huge influence just on fighting in general, just to have that kind of light, loose style. And
so what was Muay Thai like before and after, and how do you see it specifically, how it changed?
So back in the day when I used to train with Sexton, I used to always watch, VHS tapes.
VHS, for those people who don't know, it was this thing that we had back in the day that would record video on it.
So I had to go to the Thai grocery stores, and they had videos, there. Cause, from Thailand, I would get these tapes from Thailand, and, Sexton and I and Chai, his brother, watch these fights, and the present fights will be in color, obviously, but then they will have, say, 3 or 4 present fights. Then they will show some history fights or historic fights in black and white, and you just see the guys where they're pretty flat-footed and they kind of have a crouching lower stance.
Yeah, like Muay Baran, that stance that you see in Muay Baran, like that more crouching stance. Yeah,
and more of a kind of a take and receive, take and give back, and it just it was very different than what it is now. Even in 90s and early 2000s, even now it's different than what it was when I was fighting. And now it's very. These guys are just so athletic. They just go nonstop for the whole fight. They're able to kind of work at a high intensity for a long period of time.
What are the Thai fighters that you really like to watch? Like, I would assume Pukao or something like that.
Yeah, like him. But actually, I just kind of like watching. Actually, when I went to Thailand, it was kind of cool to see the younger fighters, just because they were very technical. Yeah, and I learned a lot. The first time I went to Thailand, actually, what helped me the most to get my kick better was watching like a 6-year-old. Just they don't have bad habits.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's just amazing.
I know exactly. I was watching kids doing judo the other day, and you're like, oh man, their form is so perfect. They were Russian kids. Yeah. And I'm like, they're so perfect.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. These Russian kids, I think they were like maybe like northern Russia, like Siberia or something. I don't even know, but because they looked like a little bit like not Russian, like more ethnic, like Kazakh or something like that, Dagestani maybe, I don't know. But they're the culture of wrestling's there, and they're like they were really young, and their form was just perfect.
Yeah,
just don't say that out loud though.
What?
Those looking at Russian kids saying their form is so perfect.
No, what do you?
Your form is great.
You are a bad person, Matt. Their
don't say it out
judo
loud.
form, their judo technique,
form.
judo and wrestling
All right,
technique.
add that word, then
Man,
we're good.
Where's my shock knife?
Stay away from my thumbs.
But yeah, we're learned from the.
But now, I hadn't trained with Sexton for years, and I would periodically go to Dallas and visit them. But I moved there last year, so now when I'm in Dallas, I'm training almost every day, and it's just cool to see how he's evolved. And since he has guys in the UFC now, how he teaches them differently than what he taught me, and it's just evolved for more specific Muay Thai or MMA. And it's just cool. It's fun to be a student again and to learn.
Can I ask you specifically what he discarded of Muay Thai or what he altered, if you don't mind me asking?
One thing, when we block kicks to the leg, we pick our knees straight up.
Right.
Instead of going out to the side,
totally.
So that way you can counter faster.
I remember in the Samart seminar, we had a seminar with Samart Payakarun, who's one of the great Muay Thai guys. I remember he was showing that too, like a straight up check. Yeah, and it's really bad to put. Yeah, you don't see too many people check sideways, and then they get too easy to get taken down. Yeah.
No, it's really cool, and just like jiu-jitsu. I mean, I think jiu-jitsu evolves. It's probably the fastest evolving martial arts. I mean, it's constantly evolving. Like every 6 months, there's something new, something that gets added in or gets taken out because everyone's figured it out.
Yeah.
Muay Thai, it doesn't go that fast, but I do see newer things because of the need for MMA fighting, and it's just an awesome process.
And do you see? So you'd say like, okay, there was a movement towards more footwork and movement, a lighter style Thai from the old generation. And in the 90s, obviously we had a split between Dutch Muay Thai and we were early than that, Dutch Muay Thai and authentic, I'd say traditional Thai Muay Thai, which involved a lot more boxing.
Yeah.
And then you'd say there's the 2000s is a lot more orientation in Muay Thai to make it applicable for MMA.
Yeah. I'm seeing that a lot now.
Right.
I mean, because you got a lot of guys going to Thailand to train, but they're MMA fighters, and they're just going to get their striking down. But now, since they have so many MMA people going to Thailand, it's adjusting even
Really?
there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Now, Tiger Muay Thai has a very strong camp. They have Shevchenko. She's fighting, and she represents them. And they have their traditional Thai fighters, but they're much more known as a Muay Thai camp.
Yeah. So it's fun. I mean, it's a good time in martial arts to see all this and all these things evolving. So, yeah, it's awesome.
That's fantastic. That's all I have to ask.
Well, when people call you a TIE fighter, do you make the noise of TIE fighters?
You mean the music?
No,
the TIE fighters.
No.
Star Wars.
You didn't get that.
Oh,
Mr. Pun? Come on, man.
TIE fighter.
TIE I have a question though that was
that's-
sent in from one of our listeners.
All right.
I gotta find it.
I can't believe I missed the pun.
I know. Come on, man.
I
You're
know.
like Mr.
I was
Pun
thinking.
guy.
I was thinking the old Thai boxing song. You know the old Thai boxing song.
Oh, well, you
I'm
do
Thai
your-
box- No, the Thai boxing song. It's like a pop song. It's like
Oh no,
it's a Thai. It's really bad. A Thai boxer.
no. I heard a karate rap on Instagram a couple of days ago. You need to
There's a
Google
TIE
that.
boxer.
Well, there's always everybody's kung fu fighting too. That
Oh
one.
no. I mean, this was a
karate rap.
Karate rap, like karate rap. Like,
No, you don't know this song. It's like Thai boxing. No, it's just like this really terrible song from the 70s
Oh, okay,
or
nah.
80s. Right?
Yeah.
Is that it? It's called Thai boxing.
That is it right there.
Man, yeah, video too.
That's it.
Is there words?
Yeah, it's just no, don't play anymore. It's really bad. We'll lose listeners. That's it. Yeah, that's
Oh, sweet.
that's
you
the
go.
song.
So, not the Star Wars
did.
song.
Not the Star Wars song.
Need to
No.
get my bell bottoms and let my hair grow.
I
out.
know, right?
So we have a question from Nathan Hunter. he asked.
Nathan Hunter, who is that?
He's just a guy. I don't
It's
know.
his brother-in-law.
He was wondering, since major sports, baseball, football, basketball, are pulling athletes from college and sometimes high school, at what point do UFC and other fight promotions start scouting people in high school? They already are.
Well, TJ Dillashaw is a scout. I mean, Cody Garbrandt was a scout. They scouted wrestlers in high school. I don't know if Cody Garbrandt was from high school, but TJ Dillashaw was pulled from high school right into the team Alpha Male. So he skipped college and he went right into team, Alpha Male. But he was California has a very, very, very vibrant wrestling program, and Uriah Faber has been scouting for a long time. I know at Radical we're actually starting to do that as well, to look to scout more. If you want to be a winning team, you got to take people who started early, and and wrestling is one of the best bases to scout from. And I know that they're doing it a lot. Who else was scouted? There are a few people who've been scouted. I know American Top Team goes to Brazil and they scout Brazilian black belts, or Brazilian fighters, but that's a little different because they're already like kind of well known, and they say, okay, come to American Top Team and then we'll turn you into MMA. But you're talking about people scouting as kids. I know Muay Thai has a very strong, not the greatest thing, but the strong children's competitive circuit. It's not always so healthy because they're kind of sold into the stable sometimes. Maybe that's not as common now, but I know they start very, very young.
One thing I been doing Bulgarian bags, and so I went out to Boise, Idaho to train with the inventor, this guy Ivan Ivanov. He's a wrestling coach,
very famous,
and spent a week with him and his kids, and these kids from 7 to 17, all wrestlers, freestyle and Greco-Roman. And you talk about athletes. I mean, I think wrestlers are probably the groups that's probably the most athletic of all different athletes that are out there. And these little kids were monsters. I mean, they were first just super strong, but then focused, fearless. Like when they had to go and fight, it was just no emotion in their eyes, and they would just get after it.
Yeah.
And, a lot of these kids moved to Boise just to go to the camp, and this is their thing. They're trying to make the Olympics.
Wow.
And, it is no joke, and just super, super impressed, with that program and with, just wrestlers in general. So to watch these kids, freestyle and Greco-Roman was insane.
The great thing about, and you could see Kayla Harrison has kind of been scouted as well. But the great thing about, not in America as much, but around the world, is that judo and wrestling have very strong grassroots programs in many parts of the world, especially wrestling. I mean, look at Khabib. Khabib was wrestling bears when he was a kid. So, it's just nuts,
You didn't do that?
Yeah. Me? I did not wrestle a bear. No. Although I had my time wrestling cows and stuff because I worked on a ranch. So it was like little cattle and things.
Say people on the subway.
Yeah. I was not a grappler there. No. But, I worked on a ranch. So, holding down a horse or a cattle, or actually we had goats too, to give me the medicine, things like that. It gives you a sense of okay, this is not a human, but this animal is freaking strong, and there's there's techniques to restrain animals. It's actually very interesting, Funny enough, it's a totally different story, but I was working with a police department, and they had a trouble because they were dealing with the meth epidemic and meth labs. And the meth labs would have these dogs, these killer dogs, who would, the meth drug lords would, when they would, go to the lab out in the middle of nowhere, like Breaking Bad type thing, and they'd sick the dogs on the cops. And the cops are like, look, we don't want to have to shoot the dog. If we don't have to, we'll shoot it, but we just like to know how to restrain it. And I'm like, can your jiu-jitsu help us? I'm like, actually, I can help you with this because I was restraining. This is more like vet stuff, but it is jiu-jitsu. And actually, you know what? It's more like wrestling because it's like in wrestling, there's a referee's position, when you're hands and feet. So it's like four limbs and how you tip people over. But there's, and Nelsons and things like that, grabbing the knee, grabbing the ankle. And so I actually, as part of my, I was with their canine group, and the dog thinks it's fun. He thinks it's play, but I was wrestling their canine dog and trying to restrain it. And the dog thinks it's fun. I mean, I was not abusing an animal at all. Like he would come up to me for treats afterwards. And, it was, but he's a canine dog and a canine police dog. And And they're like, oh, can you restrain him? And I'm like, try this. And then we're all playing with the dog, but it's actually like learning how to defeat actual dogs that are sent to attack the officers. So, wrestling or jiu-jitsu can be applied in a lot of situations you wouldn't think. And the same with wrestling could be wrestling the bear, that body awareness and knowledge is body awareness and knowledge, and wrestlers, when you know how to manipulate someone, and Thai boxers know this too with the Thai plum, and Chris is amazing Thai plum. When you feel someone manipulate your neck, or your shoulder, upper body, and your spine. We were talking about connect. When someone manipulates your spine, you just have to go, and that's the key. If you're dealing with any mammal, they're going to have a spine and, and a head. So, you're not dealing with like, a squid or something. Then you're in trouble.
Where do you put your hands? I don't know. Where's their thumbs?
You try to arm lock on a squid. It's not really going to work. You're like, wait a minute. This is not working. But given certain parameters, of skeletal structure, jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai and all martial arts can work, at some level. Yeah.
Wow. Well, did the dogs have good form?
They were actually incredibly strong. Let me tell you.
Oh yeah, the police dogs ridiculous.
Like it was, and I'll be honest with you, like. Because he started at one point where, because one officer had the experience of the dog lying on top of him and trying to bite his throat, and so we kind of started. I started in my guard, with the dog, and the dog is still muzzled, right?
Yeah.
I would lie to you if I wasn't scared. Say if I said I wasn't scared to death. It was a very scary experience to wrestle a dog who's actually the dog was really big. Like, this is not a small dog. And he's like, and he's an athletic dog. And I do not believe in dog fighting at all. I do not believe in it. I think it's terrible. Unfortunately, it's out there. And I have had experience of seeing dogs, former dogs. I've never been to a dog fight. I will never do that. But I have seen dogs who are like the Japanese Tosa is a dog fighting dog breed. And I've seen them. Is actually a lot of this dogfighting world intersects with the martial art world, unfortunately, and that's true in every country, whether it's Latin countries, which are known for rooster cockfighting and dogfighting, as well as American and Asian countries too. And the Japanese fighting dogs are unbelievably strong, like stronger than most humans. And I'm talking their jaw. I'm talking their upper body strength. They generate in different ways, but if they lay on top of you, they are so damn strong. And so when I was working with this police dog, he wasn't a Tosa, but he was I don't know, like a mixy shepherdy kind of thing. And on top of me, I was like, whoa. So guard up, guillotine right away. And I flipped him over. I did a flip over and I got on top and boom. And I was like, okay, now we're done with this. This is just scary. But it was very intimidating, when you're fighting an animal. And there was that there's the guy who choked out the coyote who tried to kill him, the lynx. Yeah. He had no martial art training, but basically he did a choke on the thing and choked out. And it was only 60 pounds, but it almost killed him. Yeah. An animal you don't think is 60 pounds, but it's a 60-pound animal. Look, chimpanzees don't weigh that much, but they could rip your arms out of your sockets. There's no way a human being could. And actually, I got that question, because we talk about questions. I got a question: who would win, a human or a chimpanzee? Yeah. And without weapons, one-on-one, human has almost no chance. Yeah. Even taking away the jaws. The chimpanzees have this way of generating so much force and strength. But your only chance is to get on the chimp's back and choke him out. That's your only chance. That he cannot generate that pulling force. You have to get on his back and choke him out. For those interested in fighting a chimp.
You see the video of the guy boxing a kangaroo?
I've seen a few of them, unfortunately.
It was literally like a real in the wild. Like the kangaroo had the dog
in the wild
in a headlock. The kangaroo was attacking this guy's dog and had the dog in a headlock. And the guy walked up and punched the kangaroo in the face and then squared up with him. And the kangaroo squared up too.
Did the kangaroo kick him or punch him?
He didn't do anything. The guy punched him twice. The kangaroo twice in the face, and the kangaroo ran away.
Oh well,
he literally just punched. It was amazing.
But there's a video of a kangaroo choking another kangaroo unconscious.
Oh wow.
No, really, he does like the palm to palm choke.
Yeah, that's what he did.
And the kangaroo chokes another kangaroo unconscious. Wow. The two kangaroos fighting. It's like crazy. And then the other
They're evolving.
No, but it's interesting because a lot of our fighting techniques are based on natural, efficient movement. And it's not only humans who discovered this. You know, like animals have ways of doing that. Now, it's interesting because they're saying there's an article about primates and stuff and how their technology of primates is evolving. Like they're using tools differently, and their technology is evolving too. So why wouldn't a kangaroo do a rear naked choke? You know, like not exactly, you know, Hickson style, but
But he's watching YouTube videos now.
I see the kangaroo watching YouTube videos, switching screens back and forth. You know, oh, there's that new omoplata.
They're trading the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu VHSs. They're still back there.
Yeah. But you know, anyway, we went a little off topic, but that's very interesting. So where do you see Muay Thai for MMA going in the future?
I just think it's going to constantly evolve. You know, just you see like the stomp kick, like things are starting to come out because there's just a need for it. People are figuring out that need, and then they just start applying it and then just incorporating it. So yeah, it's just everything's going to evolve. Everything. Yeah. I mean, you know.
What would you say for MMA fighters or any fighter? What would you say would be the place where you think they need to improve the most in from Muay Thai fighters, any striking based guy? Like you're like, hey, this is where MMA needs to improve more. One
thing I see with MMA fighters doing Muay Thai, just like, you know, we talked about this with Jiu-Jitsu, is say if someone, you know, wants to do MMA but they're not experienced in Jiu-Jitsu, they'll come in and just try to get a little piece and then go out, but they'll miss the full essence of it. And I think you need to do the same thing for striking. Like you really need to understand the full essence of it and then take what you need for the MMA. Just like with jiu-jitsu, you need to really understand kind of the full thing instead of just little pieces here and there.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, I think that's one mistake that I see because a lot of times they'll have gaps, and those gaps are huge, and you know they can get caught with something.
I would say it's interesting because you could see the evolution of striking MMA. It was less movement based, because like you remember the old school, like kind of it would be like, okay, trade some punches, hit some shots, you know, and everybody have their really flat footed stance because they're so worried about the takedown. Yeah. And now that everybody's takedown defense got so much better, there's Adesanya now, and he's bobbing, weaving, moving. He's the new Anderson Silva, boom, 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 and it's just beautiful to watch. And I think that's there's a fight analyst who said. There's movement-based striking and there's, static-based striking, and not one is better than the other. And I totally disagree. I won't say his name, but I totally disagree with that. I think movement-based striking is really important. Play angles, movement, just being static and kind of like not moving and eating and then trading. Like you could see that with the Pettis. Now, Pettis was not like so mobile, but he was the finish was immobile. It was a move back and come back in. But like you could see like had his guard up. Yeah. And you're not wearing 16-ounce gloves. So the like fists up and tight guard only protects you so much in MMA because the gloves are so small. And blocking it's better to not be there than to block, in my opinion. Obviously you want to block, but and your hands are up. But it's better to have some movement, even if that movement will degrade over time at some level. But you can't be so static. And I've seen the evolution towards Adesanya type fighters, really movement based fighters, and it's beautiful to watch them. Well, versus the flat footed, like where it used to be.
One thing, it also depends on who you're fighting. So if you have a guy that's faster than you, then you can't outmove him. Yeah. And so, okay, I'm a little older now, so when I go back and I'm training with these, guys that are 20, 25 years old, man, they're so fast. Right. And I can't move how I would normally move because I'll get caught trying to match their speed. Well, I can't match their speed. Yeah. Their speed is faster. So what I do is I absorb and then I'll counter, but I'll just have a little movement just at the right time and then give it back. But to kind of like
match their speed,
speed, I can't do that.
That's exactly what I mean. Yeah. I'm not saying match their speed because you could see that with the Thompson Pettis fight we were talking about before. Like Thompson's just so much faster, even though he's not as fast as he was. Right. It was a great strategy to not play that speed game. But I still think, you're talking about lots of little subtle movements that don't have to be fast, but not static. Yeah. Like if you look at, I remember there was Dan Severn versus Ken Shamrock.
Oh, back in the
day. And they were just standing in front of each other. Yeah. Or, they were just like completely flat-footed. Yeah, yeah. There was like, well, I'm going to just plant because they're so afraid of the takedown. People say, it's, this is way back when boxers said, but MMA guys suck. But they were so afraid of the takedown that they didn't want to make the chance to be light on their feet because they just go flying. Right. You know, because there's so many like wrestler-based guys and people didn't understand how to defend the takedown.
Yeah.
So like, why are MMA guys so flat-footed? Well, they have to be because of the takedown. But people learn to be really, really solid with takedown defense. And that's one thing that Thompson has.
Yeah.
He has amazing takedown defense, particularly fights southpaw. Yeah. So when you fight southpaw, the guy can't get a full double on you. You're more fighting the single, and you're only defending one leg instead of two. But you move. I think Adesanya is one of my favorite fighters. He has one of the most creative takedown defensive I've ever seen. One time he got taken down and he did a roll and just got right back up, which is actually what they do in wrestling, but you didn't see it in MMA. Like he completely did like a 360 roll and kept going and then wound up. And the guy was like, God damn it. He's like, shoot, I had you and now I don't. Because it's not just about taking the guy down, it's establishing the control. Right. But that allows him to be so light on his feet, you know? Right. But I still think you're right. You're absolutely right. I'm not talking, when I say footwork, I'm not talking about like super speed, but you know, just not being so flat-footed.
Yeah, he shouldn't be flat-footed.
Yeah.
Like just.
But you remember how it used to be, right? You know, like heels planted, you know?
Yeah. But that was what, 20...
Yeah, but well, you know, I would say 20 years ago. Actually, it was 20 years ago. Stop calling me old. Remember, he's older than me, actually. Yeah, I know, right?
But who'd win in a fight?
Chris, for sure. Chris, for sure.
No.
100%.
No.
I'd be unconscious before I got near him. Unless I snuck up behind him. I am sneaky. I am very sneaky.
I know that.
The rat. But what I like to see, and I saw this for Henry Cejudo, and his stance was a little too long. It was a little more karate. But what I love to see from the guys is the seamless blending of great Muay Thai, great boxing, or whatever you want to call it, striking, and great takedowns. And then sometimes, like you go for a takedown, but you follow it up with a strike. Right. You saw this with the female fight recently, where the girl shot in a double, and then just as the girl was defending, she did a knee, overhand, and an uppercut. And it was like, okay, that's not Muay Thai. That's not boxing, and it's not wrestling. It's all to combine. That knee, then it was an overhand uppercut, and boom. I'm like, that's it. And I was like, yep, that's it right there. Where there's no divisions between the martial arts.
Yeah. That's the highest levels.
Yeah. And that's what I like to see, you know. But it's hard. You're right, because we have this discussion all the time. This is the fourth time. It's like, should you be a specialist and then go to MMA, or should you be a generalist to some extent? And it's still the specialists are winning. Yeah. But is that going to be the way it is going forward? I don't know. Joe Rogan's on the other side, where he says, well, you know, start MMA from day one, and you'll be better prepared than some guy who does Olympic wrestling all his life and goes to MMA. And you know, and that's proven not to be true yet. It's proven not to be true. But I don't know. In the future, it may. You know, we don't have an answer yet.
Yeah. That's the sport will figure it out.
Yeah, the sport will figure it out. Yeah, I don't have. But at this point, every single weight class in the male weight class is dominated by someone who was a specific fighter first, not a generalist first. Yeah, you know, with the possible exception of is Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson's not the champ anymore, right? He's no, it's Holloway. Holloway's the champ at 145, right? Yeah.
Quizzing me.
Yeah, but so Ferguson's not the champ, but Ferguson is the one where you could maybe say he's a generalist, because he was doing striking and jiu-jitsu, everything at the same time, as I understand it, you know. But then again, he was dividing his hours, you know. Yeah.
And that's the thing, like you spend your time, really do jiu-jitsu, and then you really do, you could do this at the same time.
Yeah. And
then some kind of, you know, takedown, judo, wrestling type of thing. I don't know. I think that could work, but it's a lot of time.
Yeah. It's a lot. Yeah, it's a demanding time. And for me, when I teach mostly people who don't want to fight in the cage, but the idea is to take, and this really bothers me when people say, "Oh, well, prize fighting is totally different from street fighting." Okay, yeah, there's some differences, like you get ambushed and things like that. But a punch is a punch is a punch. A kick is a kick is a kick. And a very effective, efficient movement will work in a self-defense scenario as it will in the cage. Like, how is this the way the rules of physics are somehow different in the cage and in real life? Now, obviously, situationally, there's cars and this and that. But as we can see from watching self-defense videos, the same thing happens in self-defense videos that happens in fighting. And if you know how to really, did you see the fight? There's a fight in Grand Central Station like 2 days ago. These two guys, this one guy they got into an argument, and the other guy has some training, and the one guy got in front of him and he said, back off. And then he clipped him and he tried to make space, and the other guy chased him. And then, the other guy shot in, took him down, mounted him, and then the cops came. Yeah. I'm like, oh, right. You mean basically MMA. Yeah. So he actually had some nice boxing. And then he shot in, did a little outside trip, mounted him, and that was it. The other guy tried to guillotine, headlock him, just like exactly MMA. So the idea that a street fight is somehow radically different from what goes on in a cage is completely spurious. It's just like fat reality-based self-defense guys want to use that as their reason not to train. Yeah. but the question is like training a prize fighter and then training someone who does not have, 3 hours, 4 hours a day to do 2 double days every single day. How do you get them, ready for self-defense? And I think, a very strong background in grappling first has been proven to be successful in the cage, but also if you have a very strong understanding of clinch and a very strong understanding of the ground, that can take you very, very far. And that's where you want to build your background. And then on top of that, adding some Thai boxing, adding some boxing, very, very successful recipe, because you could be a great Thai boxer, and this is no knock to Thai boxing, which is amazing, amazing, amazing art, which continues to evolve, and I'm a huge fan. But if a wrestler shoots in and puts you on your back and you've never trained what to do there, you're out of your element, Versus if you're a jiu-jitsu guy or a wrestler, you know what that feels like. So you never have to feel, because you start standing up. But that's a problem with jiu-jitsu right now. Jiu-jitsu guys don't start standing up, so they have no idea how to clinch. So it goes for every art, But generally speaking, a wrestler starts standing, or jiu-jitsu guy, judo guy starts standing, and they bring it to the ground. If you understand those transitions, you don't fear most of the fight. Right. You're like, oh, this can go anywhere, and I could be okay. So I'm always like, how do I teach my students to be very, very functional in self-defense, given that they're doctors, lawyers, garbage men, bankers, whatever, restaurateurs, however, whatever, because they have a life, or just family people. They don't have so many hours to spend in the day training. And so that's kind of like, that's the difference, is like when you don't have so much time to spend, how do you get functional? Yeah. And to me, it's like, start with stand-up grappling and bring it to the ground. And then on top of that, add, when you have a good foundation, add the striking. And then always see the transitions, but ground yourself with very solid fundamentals in understanding, like you said, like understanding, the larger Muay Thai game, the larger wrestling game, the larger jiu-jitsu game, as it applies to what you want. Right, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But it's hard. I don't think anybody has an answer. I don't have an answer. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, like I said, the sport will tell you. Things will evolve, and if it works a certain way, well, then we'll see it.
Yeah. So that's about it. Interesting conversation.
Wow.
All right.
So really happy. A lot of different places.
I've been bugging Chris to come on this podcast for so long, and I'm just so really excited to have him here, and it was just great.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
And if anybody wants to do Pilates seminars with you, or Muay Thai seminars, or anything, what should they contact you?
They can go to s6fitness.com, and I'm on Facebook and Instagram at s6fitness.
Right. And guys, if you have a fight school and you want to have some really, really functional conditioning, this is the guy to go to. He's amazing, and also a wonderful person. Right?
Thank you. Thank
you so much.
All right.
Thanks for listening. Follow us on Twitter at Marshall_Culture and on Instagram at MarshallCultureCast. Please leave a review on iTunes, and we'll see you next time on the Marshall Culture Podcast.